stories making headlines before we get to the topic of conversation this morning. Now, we start with the appointment that was made yesterday by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has moved in to fill the vacuum at the National Treasury by appointing Labour CS Ukur Yatani as the acting Treasury CS. He's also appointed Julius Muya as the substantive Treasury Principal Secretary, moving him from the planning State Department. Therefore, Kamau Thuge has been sent packing. Now, this is a report I filed yesterday trying to break down that movement. Now, ever since the hammer by way of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, came down on Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich and Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge, the speculation, as evidenced by this, has been rife on who President Uhuru Kenyatta would tap to hold the fort. This afternoon, we got our answer by way of a statement from State House spokesperson Kanze Dena. Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani takes over the National Treasury and Planning portfolio in an acting capacity as replacement for Rotich, who is barred by the courts from returning to office. Things get slightly more intricate when it comes to the position of Principal Secretary. And to make the movements simpler, we use this illustration. It's a square or a box based on what your interpretation of it is. Now, on account of the criminal charges that he's facing, Dr. Thuge has been completely edged out and substantively replaced as the Principal Secretary National Treasury by Dr. Julius Muya, who is the man who has been appointed to replace him. He therefore moves from the State Department of Planning and takes Thuge's place. Taking Muya's place is Torome Saitoti, who moves from the Ministry of Defense up to the Ministry of Planning. And finally, you ask, who takes over from Torome in the Ministry of Defense? Well, that is retired Major General Gordon Kihalangwa, who moves from the State Department of Immigration to Defense. So who exactly is this man, Ukur Yatani Kanacho, and what informs his appointment to manage the National Treasury? Well, the 58-year-old holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Egerton University. He served as a District Officer Cadet and rose through the ranks to a District Commissioner in 2002. In 2005, he received a Master's of Arts degree in Public Administration and Policy in the United Kingdom. He then ventured into politics and was elected Member of Parliament for North Horr constituency in 2006. He was then appointed Assistant Minister Science and Technology in 2009. He was named Kenya's ambassador to Austria, where he served until 2012. And in 2013, he was elected Marsabit County's first governor, serving only one term. He was then appointed a Cabinet Secretary for Labour and Social Protection in January of 2018, until today, when he's been appointed Acting National Treasury CS. Italian firm CMC di Ravenna has denied any wrongdoing in the Aurora and Kimarejam scandals that has 3 of its officials on the verge of arrest and prosecution in Kenya. The firm, in a statement, says it had no role to play in the negotiations to finance the project that resulted in a manipulation of the funds and a loss of close to 20 billion shillings of taxpayers' money. NTV's Brenda Wanga brings us that report.
With the looming threat of the issuance of an international warrant of arrest for its CEO, CMC di Ravenna, the company contracted to construct the dams at the heart of the multi-billion shillings scandal, is distancing itself from the scam. In a statement, the company says it is certain of the correctness of the work of its company and its representatives, both in Italy and abroad, and in particular of the contract involved. CMC entered into a financing agreement with the National Treasury that was converted into a commercial loan under unclear circumstances. That loan grew from 46 to 63 billion shillings, 17 billion shillings more than was needed.
The National Treasury entered into a facility contract in euros, while the commercial contracts were in US dollars, therefore occasioning further loss to the Kenyan government through exchange rates.
The company now says that neither it nor its representatives took part in the negotiation and expresses its confidence that it will quickly clarify its own extraneousness to the facts under investigation. While the company fights to detach itself from the scandal, the DPP has insisted 3 of its officials have a case to answer alongside the CS and PS for Treasury and other suspects. According to the DPP, the company stands accused of getting the tender despite not performing on 3 other projects it had been awarded and submitting draft technical designs at the beginning of this year, 4 years behind schedule. The government is accused of awarding the contract to CMC despite knowing that the firm was facing financial challenges and was indeed heading into bankruptcy. The firm's website indicates that the company is in the safe hands of its CEO, Paolo Porcelli, who holds an engineering degree and has a wealth of experience in overseeing the execution of mega projects. He is particularly hailed for his critical role in securing and executing key infrastructure projects in Africa, Aror and Kimwarer dams in Kenya included. The accusations notwithstanding, on the company's website, a different picture is presented. According to CMC, the realization of this artist's impression is well underway. Once completed, this patch of earth in Kimwarer will be turned into this expansive dam, and the same will be replicated in Aror. However, according to the DPP, the earth here hasn't even been excavated to kick off the construction. This despite the government spending 19.7 billion shillings on it so far. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
When he took up the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji hoped to change the fortunes of the prosecutor's office that had previously started in securing convictions for graft cases. Haji's choice of private legal counsel to prosecute the high-profile corruption cases may have injected a renewed sense of confidence in the office of the DPP as he promised to take on corruption by the horns. NTV's Zainab Ismail takes a closer look at Taib Ali Taib, one of Haji's right-hand men, now tasked with prosecuting individuals involved in the Aror and Kimwarer dam scandals.
From a Mombasa lawyer, Taib Ali Taib is the face of the DPP's latest high-profile prosecution. In his first public appearance as a special counsel in the case against Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, Taib already had his gloves on. Taib holds a law degree from the University of Nairobi and a diploma from the Kenya School of Law. He was admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya in 1988 and has practiced law for 31 years. In 2003, he was elected the mayor of Mombasa and served until 2006. His stint in politics came to an end after the government degazetted his nomination as a councillor. In 2016, Taib resurfaced. He was shortlisted among 10 other candidates for the position of the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Conscientiously, to the best of my ability, so that I may go down, hopefully, on the record, to have rendered my country a service, both for the country's sake and for my own family's sake.
He failed to clinch the seat and went on practicing law, until now, when the DPP, while on a talent search, picked him to join his team of special prosecutors to boost the state of public prosecution and help prosecute complex cases. The other members of the DPP's 3-man team include former DPP Philip Murgor and lawyer James Kihara Muridhi. They have been described as the DPP's right-hand men. Taib joined the DPP's power team after he successfully won freedom for convicted businessman Faisal Ali Mohammed, who was charged with being in possession of ivory worth 44 million shillings. He had appealed against the 20-year jail term handed to Faisal. Taib Ali Taib took on his first case on Monday involving immediate Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich over the Aror and Kimwarer dams scam. Since coming into office, Haji has prosecuted a number of high-profile suspects. The case against Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu even saw him enlist the services of London-based Professor Senior Counsel Khawar Qureshi. Haji hopes this approach will not just be another catch-and-release game, but could be the much-needed breakthrough in securing the conviction of graft suspects. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
We now cross over to Nakuru County, where Bridget Ngana is standing by with a brief on the governor's meeting that is scheduled to take place in Nakuru over the impasse on the division of revenue. Bridget, what do we expect to come out of today's meeting?
Well, Olive, the meeting has not yet begun as we had anticipated, but the COG is meeting in Nakuru County specifically. Apart from speaking about the budget impasse between the National Assembly and the Council of Governors, they do expect to talk about the future of governors. Remember, some of them are serving their final terms and they're trying to see how they will still remain relevant in the public eye after they serve their 2 terms. Also, we do expect them to talk about the issue of revenue and also the future of devolution. This is something that has been a push and pull between different houses of parliament, them specifically as far as revenue is concerned. But we are going to analyze or break down the meaning of this meeting with a constitutional lawyer here in Nakuru County, Kip Koech Ngetich, and he's going to help us to really break down the issue between the future of devolution and how the push and pull between the Council of Governors and Parliament will affect the future of devolution. Thank you so much. Can you just give us a brief on what you feel should be the best way forward regarding this impasse?
Thank you very much, Bridget. I must say that the Constitution of Kenya, when it was enacted, anticipated very good decentralization of power, strongly defined under Article 175 of the Constitution of Kenya as devolution of power, where there would be massive participation of the people, where there would be involvement of the people in terms of appropriation of resources. Unfortunately, I must say that the people that we have in the leadership, both at the national level and at the county level, seem not to understand very clearly the objects of devolution. Because when you look at Article number 10, Clause 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, the Constitution specifically says that it is very important as a principle of governance, as a principle of governance, that devolution of power is entrenched as a national value. We've not done that as yet because you still see delays of distribution of resources or release of resources from the National Treasury. You still see exaggerated bills being done at the county levels. You've seen contractors the other day billing for billions and billions of money for work not done, for fictitious contracts. And of course, this is definitely with the collusion of those who serve at the county levels. And even worse, Bridget, is that you've seen county governments paying a lot of money into services that are not essential. One of them, for example, is paying billions of money into legal services. And then, of course, traveling. MCAs have been traveling, county executives have been traveling, governors have been traveling.
Maybe can you tell us, these governors are meeting here in Nakuru County to talk about the future of devolution. You've mentioned that maybe there's the issue of accountability among the leadership and also not just from the devolved governance, but also in the national government. So what is the way forward in terms of the future of the success of devolution?
Thank you very much. I think Kenyans need to go back to the drawing board. I'm a supporter of devolution because when you look at the architecture and the design of the Constitution, the common man on the ground, the person in the village, the person in the ward has been given massive power. When you look at the County Government Act itself, it talks about participation, that is public participation, almost 100 times. So I think the common person now must take the bull by its horns, and then understand the Constitution as it is. Having understood the Constitution, it should go back to election. And when it comes to electing, we need now to elect people who understand devolution, people who are very sound and robust when it comes to good governance. Same thing to MCAs. The people that we have in county assemblies have been unable completely to oversight. They don't understand the role of members of county assembly. The most they understand is to travel, to go and benchmark on waste management in Israel and similar countries, which are far beyond the level where Kenya is.
From the way you're speaking, there's a feeling, or I get a sense that maybe we did not have enough public participation or public awareness, even when we're going to maybe into devolution, that people really don't understand the roles and functions of these governors and the MCAs.
Thank you very much. You're very right. Kenyans themselves do not understand the role of governors. We do not understand what devolution is all about. We are yet to understand Schedule number 4 of the Constitution of Kenya, which by and large has very clearly defined roles. When you look at I've looked this morning at the revenue bill number 2 from the National Assembly. A lot of money has been allocated to counties, purportedly from the national government or outside what should be allocated to the county governments. For example, we still have the national government clinging to leasing of medical equipment. We still see national government trying to finance level 5 hospitals. Health functions have been devolved under Schedule number 4 of the Constitution, with the exception only of referral hospitals like Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital and Kenyatta National Hospital. So we still have a problem in understanding. I think we didn't have sufficient public participation, and I think the Kenyan voter also is a fairly lazy voter. This is a person who is not keen to understand the law. Time now we understood what the Constitution wants, what the Constitution stipulates, and the spirit of the Constitution, because I'm very sure, Bridget, if we were to implement this Constitution to the latter, that is to the spirit intended, this country is going to be an Asian tiger, as we always want to talk about the Asian tigers, the Singapore and similar countries.
Okay. Maybe now the future of governors. There are those who are serving their final terms right now. And what do you think from a constitutional perspective, the way they're looking towards increasing maybe their lifespan in the public eye after maybe they've finished their time in office?
Thank you. I must say, Bridget Starr, there are some governors who've done extremely well. They would be back again, whether through a constitutional amendment or without a constitutional amendment. Some of these governors would serve as senators. Some of them, of course, would probably be serving as cabinet secretaries. But I know there are those who've really frustrated the people. There are those who frustrated contractors. There are those who are never their counties. Of course, as I have said, there are those governors who are expecting that the constitution is going to be amended. There's going to be another tier in the hierarchy of governance, that is the regional governments that we've been talking about. A lot of governors are looking forward to this. There are those governors.
What would that mean, maybe if you have the regional governments?
The regional governments would mean that you would have, for example, a number of county governments under a region. For example, remember the Rift Valley province that we used to have. Yes. You might have a number of counties now under a regional government, which is a similitude of the Rift Valley province. So that on top of governors, you would have perhaps maybe a regional governor who would be overseeing several county governments. That is what we seem to be anticipating, and I think that is what some of these governors might be looking forward to. But as I've told you, a lot of these governors would be going home because their constituents, their voters are frustrated, Lord. They are so much frustrated. You go to their dispensaries, there are no medicine, there's nothing.
Okay. No, you're talking about this, and just yesterday, the Ekuru Court, the party leader for the Third Way Alliance, was in Nakuru County, and the Nakuru County Assembly gave him a nod as far as his Punguza Mizigo bill is concerned. Do we also see there's a push, maybe to have a subtle push to have a referendum, either or in the near future?
I think, constitutionally speaking, time is ripe for this country to have a constitutional referendum. What I do not know, Bridget, is whether we've conducted a sufficient audit on the constitution that we have so that we can tell whether we've explored this constitution, we've exhausted the very good principles, the lofty principles and guidance provided in this constitution. Yes, constitutionally speaking, time is ripe for a constitutional amendment, but I'm not very sure if we've conducted a sufficient audit on the weaknesses, the inadequacies, and the strengths of this constitution. I'm afraid, from my perspective, that we've not done so. What we're pursuing is a political agenda where some politicians want to create a certain constitution that is going to meet their expectations and, of course, their political expectations.
We're talking about maybe regional offices, and this is about reducing the wage bill and the burden to the common man as far as tax is concerned, because they're the ones who are funding these public officials and public offices. So what is the best way forward and maybe a balance, because we're talking about new offices being created, some offices being rendered obsolete. So what is really the way forward? And there's a lot of uncertainty.
Thank you very much. I've always said before that the problem that we have as a country is not lack of sufficient laws. This country has a plethora of very good laws. The constitution that we have is a hybrid of the South African Constitution. Yes. We have very good articles which we've imported from the American Constitution. We do not need a constitution as a country to move forward. What we needed to do is to internalize the constitution that we have. What we need to do is to fully implement Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles of good governance. Yes. If we were to reduce corruption by 75% as a country, we are going to save 600 billion, which we lose annually. Yes. So we do not need laws. We do not need a new constitution. We need to be a little bit serious in terms of governance, and I'm talking about Article 10 of the Constitution and, of course, Chapter 6. What we hear today, and I'm very happy that the media that we have in this country is very vigilant. Yes. What we see on a daily basis is a case of is a case of corruption. What we see as a country on a daily basis is a case of embezzlement, misappropriation, and plunder of public resources. That is what we need to get rid of as a country. And we can borrow from Rwanda. Rwanda is a success story on how to fight corruption. This is the direction we need to take. Change our mindset. Entrench principles of good governance under the laws that we have. We do not need a new law at the moment.
So in a sense, we are ripe for constitutional change, and at the same time, we are not ready because we have not yet exhaustively implemented the current constitution. That's what you're trying to mean?
That is my position. My position is that, yes, constitutionally speaking, we can amend the present constitution. The infrastructure that we have allows Kenyans to amend their constitution. What I'm not very sure about is whether we've exhausted the good principles that we have in our constitution, so that we can now say the constitution that we now have is inadequate. I do not think it is inadequate as yet.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When you talk about law matters, legal matters, getting to the meat of the constitution, there's usually a lot of wordings and a lot of maybe expressions that need to come out. But ahead of the COG meeting, we do expect to see them talk about their life after office. We also expect them to talk about the impasse between them, about the budgetary impasse between the National Assembly and the Council of Governors, and also maybe how the future of devolution is going to take place. From this perspective, the constitutional lawyer I've just spoken with is that there is not enough public awareness for the people of Kenya to understand how devolution actually will benefit them, and most importantly, we need to get rid of corruption, which seems to maybe sabotage all the developments that we've made as a country thus far. Olive.
Thank you, Bridget. Bridget Singana speaking to us there from Nakuru County, where we expect the Council of Governors to meet. Now we cross over to Mombasa County, where Kevin Mutai is standing by. He is at the Mombasa Law Court, and that follows the arrest of the ex-Ugenya MP, Chris Karan, yesterday by officers from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, Kevin, yesterday we heard, or rather we read, that the EACC Mombasa boss Japheth by Thalu confirmed the arrest, and he said that Karan would be transferred to Nairobi for charging. Is that still the position?
Well, that's correct, Olive. And as you said, we are live from Mombasa High Court here. And as at yesterday, Chris Karan, who is the former Ugenya Member of Parliament, together with other 3 officials who are accused of colluding to prepare and using forged documents and providing false information to the court during the petition of his petition of 2017 general elections. According to EACC, the 4 were arrested in in different places here in the country, one in Kisumu. Chris himself was arrested here in Mombasa, and they are all expected to be brought before the courts, or to be arraigned to answer to charges of various offences. According to EACC, they're saying that the suspects will be charged with falsifying documents and the Leadership and Integrity Act. Remember, this is what people are saying, that it is a ghost petition that has come to haunt the former Member of Parliament of Ugenya constituency in Siaya County. Remember that Chris Karan has been fighting this battle for quite some time, and we understand that back in after his win, we understand that his challenger, who is the current Member of Parliament, David Ochieng, went to court to challenge his win, where his election was nullified. Chris Karan again moved to the Court of Appeal to challenge the decision of the High Court, and the Appellate Court maintained the position and that decision of the High Court. And again, Chris Karan moved to the highest court on land, that is the Supreme Court, to challenge both the decisions of the High Court and the Court of Appeal. But the Supreme Court also upheld the 2 decisions, citing that his election was marred by several irregularities during his campaign period, altogether to the voting period. And remember, this is something that the EACC, together working with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, are citing various issues that they believe that the 4 colluded to commit under the Leadership and Integrity Act. Now, just to remind you, so the names of the other suspects who are expected also to be arraigned today is a lawyer, George Mugoye Mbaya, and George Owino, as well as Mohamud Aden Mohammed, whom we understand is the current executive member for the county of Mandera, the Department of Health. They are all, according to ESCC, we're expecting all of them to be arraigned this morning, and we will be here on standby to cover what will be transpiring from Mombasa concerning their arraignment here. Back to you, Olive.
All right, thank you, Kevin Mutai. And we get to the topic of conversation this morning, and that is on the integration of special needs children. Now, I don't know whether, first of all, let me introduce my guest. I'll start with Eva Nyoike, who is on my right. Eva is the director of ACON Special Tutorials. Eva, we are happy to have you.
Thank you.
Sitting next to her is Timothy Wambua. He's the director, Kenya Institute of Special Education. Is it your first time here on NTV?
It's my first time with KNP.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're happy to have you as well. Sitting next to me, somebody I've been told to introduce as a celeb. She's been on your television screens numerous times, and that is Maria Njeri. She's a disability advocate. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
All right, Maria. And sitting next to her is Sanaipe Kimiti, who is an occupational therapist. We're happy to have you as well. Is it your first time?
Yeah.
On NTV? No, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good, good. All right, and sitting next to her is Susan Jerry. It is your first time on NTV.
It's my first time on NTV.
Oh, okay. First time on TV, period?
On NTV.
On NTV, okay.
Yeah, but I've hit so many other screens.
Oh, okay. So she may be familiar to many of you. Susan is the proprietor of the Special Caregivers space.
Yes.
All right. So I don't know whether you had a chance to watch a feature we carried on Sunday called Beacon of Hope. And you did, Maria? And it was a story about this center in Mombasa that occupies, that offers occupational therapy through taekwondo to special needs children. Why are programs like that important? Eva, I'll start with you.
Well, programs like that are very important because, first of all, we get to realize that our children with special needs actually have talents and that they're able to do quite a bit of stuff that other children can do. And a very important aspect of it is kind of self-defense. Yeah, I saw that and I thought about them taking care of themselves because they are very vulnerable, especially those who are not verbal. They can be very vulnerable children and people can take advantage of them in many ways. So the issue of self-defense will come in there. When you do activities like that, you also, the movement that are involved and the coordination that is involved is also very stimulating for the brain. So you'll find that they will also acquire other skills. So it's not just the self-defense they're learning. They're also acquiring the fine motor skills, the gross motor skills, the socialization skills, the communication skills. So there's so much that they're acquiring without necessarily sitting around a table using a pen and a paper. So those are some of the things that, that are important for them to learn such skills.
Do you offer something similar at ACON?
ACON, we have more physical activities. We have swimming, we have athletics. We are part of the Special Olympics. So we do a lot of physical activities because, as I said, we realize the impact it has on their other areas of development. We have occupational therapists, that's where Sana comes to. And the classrooms, our approach to intervention for our children is a wholesome approach where we don't just use, the typical learning environment. We mix other activities according to the child's needs.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sanaipe, first of all, how did you get into occupational therapy?
Occupational therapy, like an occupational therapy help a child to learn the activities of daily living through the occupations. Occupation of a child is basically to learn and play. So when we say play, an occupational therapy will use play. When a child is playing, I don't just see play. I see sensory integration. The child enrich himself or herself with the sensory through smell, touch, and mobility and all that. That is when they are doing activities like swinging, horse riding, playing with the sand, playing with the pegboards. I also see manipulative play. That is when they are working with activities like threading, board activity, fixing a puzzle. There is a lot of dexterity. And also in play, I also see role play or imitation play. This is whereby they play like a doctor activities, a teacher-student activity, whereby they use furnitures, they use a doll to dress them up. When they're doing all these activities, they're working with their memory. We're facilitating fine motor skill, a lot of dexterity. We are feeding the sensory input, and this helps a child to be able, in future even to be able to do the other activities and even incorporate this in school. For example, when they're doing the fine motor skills, this will help them when it's come to coloring, drawing, and joining the dots. When they are doing the play and the role play, when the child is playing, there are some rules in that play, like you follow, listen and obey, follow given instruction and all that. So this one also help in interpersonal communication, interaction, and socialization skills. Yes.
Okay, Maria, you're living with cerebral palsy. Did you find occupational therapy beneficial?
Yeah, very beneficial. I've had it for most of my life, and those fine motor skills were very helpful, and even in the sense of just assisting interpersonal communication skills and the simple things to make life more independent, because for children with cerebral palsy, getting to a certain level of dependence take a lot of effort by the occupational therapist. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Susan, when you started your space, did you find that that was something that was lacking?
Oh, yes. I'm a mother to a child with CP, with cerebral palsy, who is just turned 9 years. And let me say there was a gap when I got into the world of CP, and that was caregivers space. The caregivers gap was there, and because of the experiences and the hard experiences I faced with my child, and on a personal basis, that is why I saw the gap with the caregivers care, and just a way of relieving parents with special needs children, especially cerebral palsy, of their daily life hardships. So yes, at the center we have children coming in for occupational therapy, and because that is one of the part that it's a lifetime thing that we've got to do. So the gap that was there was to cover up for the hardships that the caregiver goes through.
The hardships that the caregiver goes through.
Yeah.
All right, Timothy, you're the director, Kenya Institute of Special Education. She talks about there being a gap.
Yes.
How are you looking, or how have you addressed that gap, that caregivers gap?
Well, right now we have an assessment center, which is actually the National Referral Center for kids with disabilities. And we normally do assessment of kids with all types of disabilities. We are able to assist the parents to place them in schools, and also to tell them on which hospitals they can go to. It's fortunate we also have some occupational therapists, so we help the parents to know how to handle their kids at home with these disabilities. And I think in that way we're starting to bridge the gap, so that at least the parents know, because quite a number of parents out there don't really know how to handle the kids with disabilities. But those who are able to come to KISE and in our assessment center, we have been able to help them. And again, part of our mandate is outreach and advocacy. And we are doing this quite a lot. We are going out to the field in all the counties, across the counties. And we find that there's a very big gap And most parents don't even know that these kids with disabilities can be given an opportunity even to go to school. They normally hide them in their homes. They don't want to be seen as parents with kids with disabilities. So as Kise, when we go out for outreach and advocacy, we really create a lot of awareness that this kid can lead a normal life, given the right opportunities, and we're able to help the parents and what to do, what steps to take, so that they're able to just accept this kid has a disability, it's my kid, and this kid can also lead a normal life, given an opportunity. So we're doing a lot of advocacy and awareness creation.
Okay, before we take a look at Beacon of Hope, for those who may not have watched it, it's just a few minutes long. Eva, he talks about families who hide their children away. How do we get these parents, these families, this support system to the point where they view these children as capable?
Yeah, you know, actually, Olive, the problem may not be the families. The problem, a lot of times, I myself have a child with Down syndrome. And a lot of times it's not the family. The family, by them keeping the child at home, is probably a way of protecting shielding that child from the community. The problem is the community. They are not aware of these children, so they'll treat them differently. They will treat their parents differently. They already have these assumptions of why this child is X, Y, Z. Yes, the community, the society is the one that is not ready to receive our children. Yes, the parents will want to take their children out there, but they don't know where. Nobody has created that awareness to say, okay, your child has cerebral palsy, this is what your child needs, this is where you can get it. And that's why KISE coming on board is very important. But that is KISE. What about out there in the rural areas? Yes, so it's a catch-22 situation. Parents will shield their children from going out there because of the stigma, and they don't know where to take their children. They don't know what to do with those children. When you are a mother and you give birth to a child with special needs, there is nobody there to work with you and actually say this child from birth will actually need occupational therapy. Some doctors will probably discharge you and you go home and your relatives or your neighbors are the ones who will come and see the child and say there's something wrong. So the first thing is that it is wrong, something wrong with this child. So we are not in a place, the space where parents are being empowered enough to be able to know what is out there for my child, what can I do? And then the community to accept the fact these are children just like all the other children. And it's not the parents' fault. It's not the child's fault. It's not the demons either, you know? So it's a matter of actually demystifying all these myths. And now as a community, as a country, as a society, let's accept our children.
Okay. Susan.
Yes.
Did the community present a problem? Did you feel like you want to hide your child away? You said you have a 9-year-old with CP.
Yes.
Did you want to keep him locked in the house, you know, protect him from the stairs, from people saying there's something wrong with your child? Did you experience that instinct, that protective instinct?
Well, I can say that children with CP are very vulnerable because like my daughter has profound hearing loss. So she might not be able to express herself in times of distress in the best way. So when I take my child to other children, because children with hearing impairment, they tend to either produce some protective sound, which is maybe to the children might sound like, oh, you're too scary, you know. And to me, she might not know the expression that any other child has or the impression they have on her. But to me, it would hit me that anyway, my child is kept in an odd way, you know, in an odd place, is misplaced. And even if somebody might not come outright to me and tell me your child is not needed, I feel from inside. But again, I usually say, first of all, stigma starts from the mind. And I won't blame it entirely on the society. I'll also blame it on a caregiver who is too afraid to take that, the acceptance step. Not blaming them as per se, but it's an advice that anyway you've got to accept the situation. Take your child outside there, let them see, let her or him integrate with others, because that is where stigma stops. That is where any other impression of a child with special needs or a child with cerebral palsy would stop. So I feel like there's that gap in the mind of a caregiver that anyway, when I take my child outside there, somebody might do this or this to them. But in real sense, first of all, it starts from you. It starts from that point of courage that even if the society is not very hopeful about our children, it's us and a step of courage for us to take our children outside there for people to see that anyway, they're valid in the society.
Maria, I'll come to you. Let me just go to Timothy briefly. Timothy, because I see you have something you want to add to that. Yes. Timothy, Susan talks about acceptance. How important is taking that step of acceptance?
It is very, very critical to accept that. Because the moment you don't accept, then you'll always be in denial that there's something wrong, and you'll never be confident in public. You'll never bring out your kid into public and be able to mix properly with the others. And just before I forget, I need to say that in case also we are starting a course on for caregivers, specifically for caregivers, so that they're able to go out into the field and assist parents with kids with disabilities.
If I want to enroll for the course, how do I go about it?
We're in the final stages, but we'll let you know. We'll put out, in our website, we'll put out the details.
Okay, but, and your website is?
www.kise.ac.ke.
Okay, www.kise.ac.ke.
Yes. So coming back to the acceptance issue again, it's very important. And that's why we think also we normally go out for this advocacy, because we tell the parents, we encourage them, just accept, because there's nothing you can do to change. And this is your kid. And there's so many people who don't have kids. If you have one, and even if they have a disability, accept, but help them, because we have seen people with disabilities who have ended up doing very well in the world, given the right opportunities, given the right space. There are people who have done very well, and they have disabilities. So it's very important for the parents to accept the given support. And I think, again, this is where society needs to come in to give support rather than ridiculing somebody with a kid with a disability. Because once that acceptance is there, which is very important, then you'll be able to give the support as a parent to that kid. And that kid will be able to go through all the milestones in life, get an opportunity, and be able to work. I remember a while ago I went to Israel, and it is so well accepted. Everybody with a disability knows, yeah, that's a kid, and let's give them that opportunity in life. And I'm looking forward to Kenya getting to that point where we'll say, yes, they have a disability, but let's give them an opportunity so that they're able to stand on their own. So that acceptance is still lacking in Kenya, and we need to really go out and help people to accept. Because once you accept, then you're able to give the right support to that kid with a disability. And they'll be able to stand on their own at some point in life.
All right. Maria, I want to come to you now. He's talked about children who go on to be successes. You're one such success. So do you think, well, part of the reason you've come so long, come such a long way, done so well for yourself, is that acceptance? You experienced that acceptance?
Yes, totally. From the first day, I think, and I always want to thank and shout out to my parents and to my family, because they accepted me 100%. And I keep on saying, the way a family accepts their child with a disability is how the society will accept that child. So I thank my family, because they never showed me I had a disability, and they made sure I had my own self-confidence and I knew who I was. And I also went through my own journey, you know, when I was a teenager of accepting myself. But I want to echo Eva and say, yes, families are doing all they can to accept their children. And we ourselves are doing all we can to accept ourselves and our conditions. But the society, once we go back to the society, that space isn't conducive for a person living with a disability. So every day walking in town and someone out of nowhere asks you, where are you going? Where's your mom? Or someone gives you a card, go see a witch doctor, you know? So this stigma is so real in Kenya that once you take a major step of accepting disability, we are automatically taken back to, you're reminded, actually, you are wrong, you have a disability, you can do this, you can't be here. So awareness is generally the most important, and we need, I keep on saying the 21st century, so it's about time. Kenya in general as a society, it's about time we accept people with disabilities. Yeah.
All right, Sanepi, how critical is acceptance that you found when dealing with parents? You deal with very young children, yes?
Yes.
How critical is the parents' acceptance of their child to their progress when it comes to the occupational therapy?
It is very critical because when you have a child as a mother, no parent with who has a child with special needs is prepared to take care of a child with special needs. And now you have your child and you expect your child to go through the developmental milestone just like any other child. And then it gets to a point that your child is not able to sit in the right, when you expect your child to sit, your child is not able to interact with other children like it's expected. Your child has a bit of unaccepted behaviors, and with that, they will start getting stigmatization from the society and even the family members. And even sometimes the couples, it's break because of that. And then acceptance. Whenever you go through any difficult moment, where even if it is a loss, you first of all denial. And when you're in denial, you can barely do anything until you get to a point of acceptance. That's when you'll be able to move on. And sometimes you accept, yes, I have a child with special needs, but what do I do with this child? I don't have the skills. I don't have the skill to bring up this child. I'm told, take your child to school. You go to school, and then they'll do an interview, and then you're told, no, we cannot take your child because your child is not able to do 1, 2, 3. So the parent will actually face, it is real, it is there in society and even with the parents. So what we need to do, I think we need to do a lot of sensitization because even in the hierarchy of need, there is the esteem need for every human being. The children of people with special need, they still went through the normal process of conception, delivery and birth and all that. So they're just people like me and you. So there is the hierarchy of need. If you take your child to school and the other children don't play with that child because, no, this child, they'll say, do you play with so-and-so? No, because he doesn't want to play with us. And it's because of the underlying factor. Maybe a child has autism. They have difficulties in socialization skills. So when you avoid this child, you're also killing the self-esteem. And you're also cutting his opportunities down. He doesn't have that zeal to keep trying and want to try more and even learn. So when we have the self-awareness with the society, with the parents, with even the teachers, and everybody who is in contact with that child, then we are able to help this child, just to make them feel it's okay. You have special needs, you have difficulties in 1, 2, 3, but we can still work towards it, and you are able to be independent in all activities of daily living.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at that special feature called Beacon of Hope and done by Halima Gongo before we continue the conversation.
Hope Center, Likoni, Mombasa County. This is a beacon of hope to many seeking refuge from harsh realities of life. Most so people consider not good enough or a burden to their families, but it is more significant for those with children with special needs. Here, they get a second chance at life.
Namuona yuko na improvement nzuri sana. Yuko kuongea, anaweza kuongea Kiswahili, anaweza kuongea English, anaweza kuongea na kushika vitu pia anaweza kushika vizuri, kama pale mwanzo alikuwa akishika kitu kama kikombe inaanguka. Juu vidole vyake viko straight, havikunji. Kwa kweli nimeona ameendelea vizuri kama mtu wa kawaida. Anaweza kurusha maguu vizuri. Kiwiliwili chake pia kiko strong. Maana hata nyumbani pia anaweza kujitetea na wenzake, kama vile anajaribu kumpiga, pia anajaribu kutetea, anarusha miguu, anarusha mateka, anarusha ngumi.
Saida Demaro is literally a walking miracle. 6 years ago, he was a total different tale. He was bound by immobility, but now he stands upright. A testimony of the outcome of the visits he makes to Hope Center in Likoni 3 times a week, accompanied by his mother, Bieni. Taekwondo has changed the story of their lives.
He couldn't walk. Alipokuja alikuwa anatamba. Nasi unamwona saa hii.
Grace Wainaina is the founder of this center. Her will to establish this place is stemmed from the difficult journeys she witnessed of women with special needs children who are making from Likoni to Mombasa town while carrying them.
Nikagundua kuna shida. Na shida ni kwa sababu hakukuwa na mahali pengine palikuwa na mahali pa mazoezi pande hii. Watu walikuwa wanatoka Ukunda, wanatoka Kwale, wanaenda Portrees ama Makadara.
Over time, the population of the children coming to the center grew from 2 to 30. This is after the community started to notice improvements in their children's health. Grace has one mantra in life, that is to ensure these children are independent and brave to face life, and Taekwondo helps her achieve this.
Na wengi wao coordination huwa ni very poor. Lakini through Taekwondo, saa hii hata huwa tunacheka kwa sababu kuna wengine hata kusimama kwa mguu mmoja hangeweza. Lakini saa hii anaweza kusimama, arushe teke.
Crispus Mwadime, an expert at Taekwondo, dedicates his 3 days of the week training these children. The sport also doubles up as a physiotherapy sessions for the children. It improves confidence and self-esteem, increases strength and stamina, improves muscle tone and appearance, flexibility, concentration and focus.
Tunamfanyisha stretching, tunatengeneza endurance za muscles zake, zile tendons ambazo zina hold joints. Kila time tukizistretch na kifanya mazoezi, endurance inakuwa firm. Kama ni miguu yake, flexibility inakuja. Lastly, kama ilikuwa pengine movements za joints ilikuwa ziko weak, zinaanza kujenga endurance. Last anaanza kuona katika movements za joints zake zinakuwa mzuri.
Self-defense is also part of the package.
Changamoto kubwa sana kwanza kwa watoto wa kisichana ni kwa sababu watadhulumiwa, wapate ujauzito, hawajui ni nani huyu mwenye kuwadhulumu, na hata wakijua, wakienda huyu mtu saa zingine anatoroka kabla apatikane, na hata akipatikana unapata kuna mambo mengi kwa sababu hawezi sema ni huyu, na akisema ni huyu labda hataeleweka nini anasema.
Mwadime's challenge is communicating in a manner that can be understood by the children.
Macho kama yanaona ni message kubwa sana ya brain. So kama ananiona ile kitu nafanya na ana copy mzuri from starting point to finishing point, that naamini ya kwamba kuna kitu kikuu zaidi anajenga katika hisia zake na ambayo itamake aweze kuishi nayo katika akili yake.
Changamoto ziko, lakini manufaa ni mengi zaidi ya changamoto, kwa sababu tumeona watoto wakitembea, tumeona watoto wakiweza kusoma, mtoto anaingia ajielewi, tunakaa na yeye, tunamfundisha kujipeleka chooni, anajifahamu. Wasichana wetu saa hii hakuna mwenye anawasaidia wakati ule wa mwezi, wenyewe wanajisaidia.
Mwadime now plans to start a national team in taekwondo that will have children with special needs as players.
Let's go. 1, start,
It is his hope that they will one day represent Kenya on the international stage.
Martial arts ilitengenezwa kwa ajili ya uhai. The moment uko na uhai, you must do martial art. So the moment utapoteza uhai, you live about martial art. So hii ni maisha. Fitness inasaidia mtu yote ambaye ako weak akiwa anafanya fitness end up being strong. Kama sasa tunaona kuna baadhi they are kicking good, they are punching good, and even stances they are making good stances. So soon as possible nitaanza kutengeneza katika sparring.
Taekwondo was introduced to the country in the 1970s by Master Lee Kyu-jin. It wasn't easily taken up by the citizens, save for one man, Samson Lipuka. Lipuka is the most experienced martial artist in East and Central Africa. Most people believe the sport is a tradition in Asia, especially China, where it gained prominence in kung fu movies. But now it is being taught in a number of schools and institutions of higher learning. A participant become better at it if they start training from when they are a child, when their body parts are still flexible.
Unaona, kwanza hii venye tukifanya tunaifanya in kinds of jokes, yeah? But venye mtoto anaifuatilizia polepole, hiyo jokes venye anaenda, endurance inajengeka yenyewe automatic. So atakuta yeye mwenyewe anajitengeneza kwingine hata pasipo yeye mwenyewe kujua. So anapata ni kitu ambayo yeye mwenyewe haimpatii dharubu kuu katika kutengeneza mwili yake.
Even though the center is well known for taekwondo, the children are also taught skills that enable them become independent, such as beadwork and knitting. Their products are usually sold and the money is saved so that they can continue with their businesses after school. Some are involved in music.
Shanga kama hii nimevaa ni wao wametengeneza. Kwa hivyo tunawa-equip ili waweze kujisaidia katika maisha yao ya usoni. Wasije wakawa wa kuomba-omba.
It is normal for every human being to want that which is perfect. Those seen as not perfect are mostly discriminated. And in some Kenyan communities, children with special needs are seen as outcasts, hidden away from the public for fear of stigmatization from the larger society. But the truth is, some of them have excelled in international stages and gone ahead to beacons of hope. Halima Gongo, NTV, in Likoni, Mombasa County.
Quite something, wasn't it? A report by Halima Gongo. We take a break, but we come back to take the conversation forward.
Tusonge mbele na Fiber Mobile. Get a fiber SIM card today and enjoy Tusonge mbele bundles at affordable prices.
Well,
thank you so much.
Can I buy a chocolate, please? It's for my mom. birthday, Mom.
Thank you, Bella. There's a class and a half in everyone.
The stigma that comes with TB. Speak on your experience.
Nobody knew I had TB, but they referred to HIV.
If they didn't know you had TB, why did they think you were HIV positive?
Because I was coughing. Coughing and coughing, that was my mark. Wherever I'm passing, people knew this is Eddie.
Unmanaged HIV/AIDS puts you at heightened risk of developing TB.
Like I'm surviving with the only 48% of the left. The right is gone.
The left lung?
Yeah, the right lung is gone.
Are you looking for a university or tertiary institution that fits your needs? Join us at the Career Fair by My Network Magazine on 3rd August 2019 at KICC from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is Technology, Education and the Future. Entry is free. Join us and get the opportunity to interact with institutions of higher learning, tertiary institutions and career guide experts. Lots of fun and entertainment throughout the day. TN Republic will be live on ground. For more information, call 0707-871-918 or email projects@ke.nationmedia.com.
Call on me anytime you want to. Call on me, my brother, I wrote you. We grew together from way back when he was 9 and I was 10. He used to be my next door neighbor. We even used to call his Papa Kenyatta.
Good morning. You're watching NTV. Today we're discussing issues children with special needs. Eva, and before we went on the break, we saw that special feature that was done by Halima Gongo called Beacon of Hope, focused on a center in Mombasa where children with special needs get training in Taekwondo.
Yes.
But something I think that gets overlooked a little bit is the caregiver.
Yes.
It must take its toll. Eva, you have a child with special needs. How do we care for the caregiver?
I actually have two. One with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and one with Down syndrome. But because I'm a specialist in this area, everyone assumes it's okay. I'm able to deal with it. You should know, you know? But it can get challenging because, first of all, it's very expensive to have a child with special needs because they need extra care. It is extremely expensive. If you want the best for your child in this country, it's very expensive, yeah? And then emotionally, we have our dreams. The other day I was sitting with my little girl. She came into the room and she sat down and she was trying to tell me something. Usually I'm able to understand what she's saying, but she was saying one word that for me that day was a new word. And I asked her, I repeated the word, but I did not understand what it is. So I had to actually get down on her level. And I told her, show me what it is. Just show me what it is. And she looked at me. And the look that she gave me was, Mom, you don't understand me. And for her, what she did is she took my hand and she held my hand. And you know what she said? It's okay, but it was not okay for me. Because how many other situations will she be in, and because we have not understood her, she will say it's okay, and then move on. So times like that, I'm left sitting there wondering, what about 5 years from now? What about 10 years from now? She's pretty verbal, but how do we get our children to communicate with us? Yes, my daughter with ADHD, who is 22 years old now, yeah? Getting her into the school system was a chore. It was difficult. I had to, a number of times, withdraw her from school, homeschool her, put her back. But because the school was familiar with my profession, they assumed that I should be able to deal with her. But I'm a mother, I'm not, okay, I'm a teacher also. To the point that she would ask me, Mom, how come you're able to do such a good job with everybody else, but when it comes to me, yeah? When it comes to me, Mom, is something, you know? And those are challenges that we face, because there's that assumption that you know what to do and what to expect, but you're also first a parent, yeah? And that's how now these parent support groups are very important, because once you enter the field of, let's say, disability or special needs, you actually belong to a tribe. You know, you speak the same language. You understand the same vernacular. You understand the same terminologies that you're going through. If I go today and speak to a friend of mine and start telling them, oh, you know, Sana is coming for therapy, she's going to do this, they have no clue what I'm talking about. And they'll probably just, I'll just, oh, okay, that's very good. But if I went to speak now to Susan and told Susan, Sana was doing this with my daughter, she was doing oral stimulation, she was doing, Susan will understand me immediately. We are all creatures that want to belong and to be understood and to be appreciated. But you get into that world of disability, and now that is what you live in, yeah? Creating the awareness, but you get comfort with other parents. We will say we meet with the parents of children with Down syndrome, for example, T21. We will say, let's meet and discuss something, and it will take maybe 2 hours. We'll end up leaving after maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, because you belong. And that, we don't want just to belong there. There's no special world out there for our children with special needs. They belong to the society, yeah? If there was that special world out there, we would look forward to that. Maria would be the president of the CP world. Maria would be president of CP world, isn't it? Yeah? Nemtia would be president of ADHD world, you see? But there's none. Yeah, and that's where the society really comes in, regardless of who you are. We have CSs, we have PS's children, CS's children. We have prominent people's children with special needs. But you know what? Awareness is still not there. Yeah, we need to create that awareness.
All right,
yeah.
Yes, Timothy?
I just needed to add to what she's saying about the awareness and sometimes people not really knowing what to do. We had 2 parents in Kise who brought their kids for rehabilitation. These 2 kids could not walk. They were young and they couldn't walk. But through several sessions in Kise, these 2 young kids were able to walk. Yeah. And the parents were so happy. In fact, one parent said, I will donate a brand new wheelchair to Kise, that assessment center, because you people have really helped me. The other one had promised a whole bunch of toys, which the boy here was using also because he couldn't walk. But now that this kid has been able to walk through the therapy sessions in Kise, this parent said, so many of us out there don't really know that we can get assistance. And you know, they gave us that assistance, and they promise to go and talk out there to many other parents. Some of it is just acceptance and not knowing what to do, where to go for assistance. But once they know, and I think that's why we still need to do a lot of awareness for parents, so that they know they can get some assistance, they can get help, and where to get this help. It's important.
All right. Susan, when you see Maria here on television stating her case, you know, taking her space, does it fill you with optimism for the future of your own children?
I don't know why I'm in love with cerebral palsy. For one reason, because I am in it, I live it every day. But there's something that awkwardly right with me is the level of acceptance. Cerebral palsy comes in different levels of severity depending on how severe the brain damage is. And I will tell you, I'm so proud of Maria, I'm so proud of people like Karungu, I'm so proud of, you know, these adults living with cerebral palsy. But again, as a caregiver, where is my level of acceptance? Do I have misplaced hopes? Because let me tell you, if I had my arm cut from the wrist, I would still hold this glass, right? When I have my arm cut from the shoulder, the case is gone. unless other orthopedic practices are done on me. So that only tells me that we have different levels. My daughter might not get to where Maria is, and so is any other child. Sometimes we get so much frustrations because of misplaced hopes. I want to do what is best for my child. I want to see her in her best performance. But again, there's something I can't do. What I can't do, I accept. What I have done, I'm proud of that. And that one tells you or any other parent outside there that there are those who can achieve. If your child is not able to adhere to simple instructions of get me that, you know, going through the basics in the house, that one should not click to you that anyway I should take my child to school who has severe cerebral palsy so that some magic can happen in school. I know the director here would possibly give a different view on this, but it is the reality of life. When we talk of reality, we talk of what is doable and what is not doable. We don't want to tell a parent, you know, my child at this age was not walking, was not doing this, was not reading, but after this they were able. What about this child or else this adult at 20 years who is not yet able to achieve this?
Yeah.
Don't we have severe cases with CP at adulthood who have not achieved all this? So I think doing what one can do and actually distancing. I tell my daughter, like, we talk, we communicate. We have derived our own way of communication. And I tell her, you know what, princess? You have your life, I have my life. Please, for my sake and for your future sake, don't take me to a guilt path of I've not done this. I have. Your way of thriving, your path of thriving, your success does not entirely depend on me. I won't go to that depression point of telling myself, anyway, I think I'm not the best. To me, I think I'm the best. And whatever my child has been able to achieve, she has achieved because of definitely me and my way of viewing things. I don't want to get to a point where, I don't know, I'm in hospital because I'm too depressed for my child. That child needs me in future. I need to have my own self-care, both mentally, emotionally, physically. You know, I don't want to carry my child at the back even at 15 years because I cannot put her on wheelchair because I don't know, stigma is too much. What about when she's in adulthood, when I'll have to lift her from here to there? Where will be my back? Do I want to have the secondary caregiving on me from being a primary caregiver to be the receiver in future? No. I want to know that what I've done with my daughter is what basically she needs, and that is where we close our case.
Okay, Maria. You thanked your parents for the level of acceptance they showed you. Did you ever, you know, look at them and see the struggle sometimes that they went through?
Yeah.
Or were you ever in a position like Eva talked about, where she says she's trying to tell her mother something?
Yeah.
Your daughter is trying to tell you something, and you don't understand.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like do you ever feel like a burden? Let me just call it what it is.
Sometimes when I was younger, I could see the struggle, and I didn't know how to. I knew it was like, you know, as Eva said, it's quite expensive in other therapy. Taking taxis from one place to another, trying to find a school and so on. So I did see my mom have a hard time. even having a hard time with the society and with people, but they didn't show me. And they didn't directly show me I was a burden. But I felt it and I knew it, and but my mom kept on reminding me, and she keeps on saying one thing. She kept on saying, we are doing the best we know how to do. So everything, whether it was school, going for therapy, anything, it was, we are doing the best we know how to do. Even now, when, as Eva is saying, when you say you go through some things in life, and you know, if you told your mom, it could hurt them. No? So you just say, no, mom, it's okay, you know, because they have done so much for you. So you just say, it's okay, don't worry. So, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. But you know, there's a point that Eva made right at the start, and she talked about this children as a blessing, because there are many people who are trying to have children, don't have children, and I mean, just looking at Maria, and I'm like, her parents are so lucky, you know, and your parents sound incredible, and they raised a beautiful, confident, capable daughter, and thank you for being here and sharing your story. Something that comes up again and again, Eva raised it, Maria raised it, the question of expense. Sinai pay. You know?
Yeah, it's for sure it is quite costly, and it's a journey, because if you have a child with special needs, you have to take this child to school. And because of the challenges of the underlying factor, this child is slow. So probably you'll be expected to employ another teacher. If this child is not dependent, like in activities of daily living, like what she said about mobility, she needs someone to be taking her to the washroom. So you need to employ someone to be on that. You need to take your child for therapy services, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So you also need to pay for those services. So it is expensive, and it is a journey. So what we try to do, and then for you to achieve what you want to achieve, it's a routine. It's really a routine program. I can't say you bring your child for occupational therapy, I'll do the occupational therapy services for 1 hour, and that's it. We have to work as a team. I have to work with the teacher, I have to work with the parent, so that we come up with a program, and also the speech therapist and all other therapists, so that we can come up with a program. And it's a routine program from the time this child gets up to the time they go to bed. So whatever I do, we normally do train the caregivers and the parents to do like a home program that they need to continue doing with this child, so that we are able to achieve the much we can achieve. Based on that clip of the Beacon of Hope, you heard that mom saying like, aliweza kushika kikombe, but before hangeweza kushika kikombe. What does that mean to me? That means that that child is now able to feed himself. When a child is able to feed himself or herself, it becomes also easier on the caregiver, because you don't have to sit there and feed that child. They are able to feed themselves. When the director here told us that the child was not able to walk but now is able to walk, that tells me that this child is also able to move from one point to another and even go to the bathroom and the toilet. That means even the expenses of diapers and pampers are also met. So the more we promote independency and help this child to be independent, it's also help us on one way or another cut down the cost. And then we also have the esteem needs, the sense of belonging. All of us need to have the sense of belonging. We want to belong to somewhere, to a family. we need to be loved, we need to be accepted. So even if this child is not able to walk because of the extent of the brain damage, there is what you can still do to that child. When you're teaching the caregiver or the parents on how to do the joint range of motion and the movement and relaxation techniques, the child will also feel like energized. And there is a blood circulation. That means that the child will be not prone to a lot of diseases. And also that love. When you're loved, you feel like you belong to somewhere. Your self-esteem raised, and you're able even to talk and, speak out your need and even be out with people. You can even go to a field, take this child with a wheelchair, and the others will play. There are some Olympic of peoples on wheelchair, Yeah, that one also raise their self-esteem, the self of belonging, like what Jaiva has told us, like they have their own language, their tribe, that she feels safer, when she's in that tribe. So what about this child? If you just smile at her, when you meet her, you just say hi, you just tell her it's okay, we are together. It's really make a big difference.
Okay, Timothy.
Yes.
Certain phrases I've heard, occupational therapists, speech therapists. I think you talked about oral stimulation.
Speech therapy.
It must be expensive. It really must. I mean, already you hear about households which are struggling to put food on the table. Now, you have a child with special needs. Maria talked about it. She talked about, needing to take cabs to places. How do you assist families in dire straits?
Well, right now, I don't think we have a fund in Kise where we are able to assist. But what we do is that those people who come to Kise for assessment, we don't charge them. Actually, just a nominal fee of 100 shillings. But we really help them a lot in terms of giving them referrals. They do once, we tell them, we give them an appointment for another day. But some other very serious cases, we refer them to Kenyatta National Hospital, and we give them a referral letter. So normally they're not charged. Yeah, I agree with you, it is expensive. Because even the equipment we have now, because like I've just mentioned, Kise is now a national assessment and resource center, where we have the national referral place. We have very expensive equipment. When you look at the equipment which helps the kids even to start stretching their limbs, I agree with you, it's quite expensive. But we're doing it for free in Kise. And that's why we're also trying to spread word so that many more people can come to Kise out in the field, and we'll be able to assist them cut down the costs for this. But it is expensive. I'm sure those who are going through it, it is expensive.
Okay. Yes, Eva.
Olive, there is the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. Now, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities mandate is to register all children with disabilities. And once they register, it's actually a body that we should be collecting data from that now will inform, like even things like budget allocation. Right now, the National Council for Persons with Disability is disbursing funds for the students, the children they say severely disabled, severe and profound. And they send them, they're supposed to send them 2,000 shillings a month. Now, Susan, 2,000 bob a month. What is that mom supposed to do with that? Therapy from the National Council for Persons with Disabilities with your card. Their bill states that with the card that they have for the National Council of Persons with Disabilities, the children are entitled to free therapy sessions in the public hospitals. How many parents know that? And how many parents utilize that? Okay. With the National Council for Persons with Disability, there's the part of employment. If you employ, you're supposed to in your organization, you're supposed to have 5% of a person with disabilities. That should be enforced now by the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. And once you employ that percentage, you're entitled to tax something. Exemption. Now, all this information is there, but who knows about it? public transport, matatus. Do you know what they call persons with special needs? Sumbua. Because by the time, let's say Maria has seen the matatu has come, and she's trying to go catch the matatu, another person, able-bodied person, has come in and got into the matatu and gone. Yeah? They don't have that time. Yeah? Are they modified, for example, if you want to create independence? This is a person on a wheelchair. They want to go into town. Can they get into the city without having to go with somebody? So we are making our persons dependent by not providing these services that they are entitled to. Insurance companies, the minute you mention that your child has cerebral palsy, the Down syndrome, they say X. No, the insurance companies, they will not accept that child with a disability unless something has changed, and I would wish to be corrected, because they say that they are a liability. They are prone to illnesses. You will have a child with autism who will never go to the hospital because they don't need to. They are very healthy children. Yeah? But because they belong to a family that has insurance, they are part of that family, so they need to be under that insurance cover. Yeah? So as we go back to society, and now it's not even society, it is policy and legislation. Yeah, how can it be implemented? Because I think it has to start from the top. And we look at everything that is happening. How do we ensure that these parents have access to health? Yeah, free access to health care, free access to education. The National Council of Persons with Disabilities is supposed to pay 75% of school fees for a child with special needs if they have their card and if they fill in the financial assistance form. How many parents know that? You see? So this is, I think, we need to create a place where parents with children with disabilities are aware of what their rights are. Yeah? And we are able now to implement. We have fantastic policies, surely. We have people coming in from all over the world, coming to look at our policies, yeah? But our implementation is where the problem is.
That is where the disconnect is. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan, you talked about having this profound level of acceptance, where your daughter is concerned. But, I mean, how do you cope? Do you worry about what happens? You talked about not wanting to need secondary caregiver assistance later on in life, but do you worry about what will happen to your children? Let's say they're not able to be fully independent when, God forbid, but you know, as nature would have it, you would go before them. Does that worry you? Does that keep you up at night?
Well, the unpredictable is always worrying, and because we don't see tomorrow, but we see it in a virtual way. So I have that worry that my girl will grow up to a, to a beautiful princess sometimes, and every other thing that she would need, she has to either communicate with a person who they've grown together, or somebody who knows in and out of her life. If fate has it, I go before her. I won't give it 100% surety, but I'm a mother of 4. She's the firstborn, and she has other 3 brothers. I find it a bit lucky for me that the princess has siblings. And these are the future caregivers. They are today's playmates. Because if my child cannot be accepted outside there, or her environment is not too good in terms of play, the brothers are there. They come in. This, and I'm talking this to other parents and tell them, if anything happens to you and you need that critical care, your siblings will come in before your aunts, before your uncles and every other relative. So it's good also to invest in the future of this child's care. And that part of the unknown, like if I leave my child in future, do I need maybe during her menses, who will be there for her? you know, who will be so comfortable with her. There's that worrying gap. But because, again, I can't step my life from backwards and start from adulthood to childhood, I would say that I can face that when that time comes. But there's transfer of care. The transfer of care through the siblings who will understand her from the level that they have grown up with. And, you know, like the nannies that we have, you know, sometimes they can keep coming and going. I don't know how many have changed, by the way. I lost count. And that is the story that you can hear from many other parents. But I would appreciate even my current one. I appreciate Jane that she's there for my child. You know, I hope you're watching.
And I hope Jane is watching.
Yeah, I hope she is. Because at that moment, that is the moment that counts. What counts is not who will come after that, or who was there, that moment of that care, that right now I'm here without a worry in my brain that my child could be going hungry somewhere. So there's that worry of caregiving. And this is where, when I hear a program about caregivers, I'm like, do you have a program for nannies? You know, as much as, you know, they're not long-lasting or, you know, they have their other life to lead, but do we have even that temporary first aids for these children? Or is it like me who have this child and I introduce my nanny to the child and train them at home? Well, I know it's a customized program for each and every child and each and every home setting. But there are the basics. We have the basics. We have what covers everybody. And when we're having even nannies being trained, or even the, I don't know what they call them, the trainings of nannies, do they come to consideration that this nanny I'm training about handling a refrigerator, I don't know, cooker and all this, do they have that mentality that anyway, this nanny can land in a family that has a special needs? Are they prepared for this? Because we find it too hard to explain even on call, like when you're looking for, you're connected to one and you're like, and know that I have a child with cerebral palsy who needs, will you be able to undertake? And they're like, no. Without even trial, without even seeing, they're like, no. Why? Because, well, I appreciate a no than when you come to my house and mistreat my child. I appreciate a no. But how prepared are they for these families? How prepared is our children, even in schools, as young as they are, that there's disability? Do they know that disability is an open club that anybody can join anytime? Because when you're talking about disability in its own setting, we are just looking at maybe congenital. Now, because I wasn't born this way, maybe you can simply slide and something happens, you know. It's an open club. How prepared are we? Do we have shock absorbers in life that something can happen to me, to my relative, to a close friend or somebody? So the transfer of duties, the transfer of mentality is what also needs to be worked on. Because I know there's adulthood in my child and we will face it. But again, I'm prepared for that day, not in a manual preparation, but I have that mindset because I want to see, I have hope that she'll get to that point of adulthood.
All right, and at that point, I'd like to open up the phone lines for anyone who might be watching at home and or from the office or school or wherever you are, and you have some questions for the panelists. The numbers should be on your screen now. If not shortly, they should be on your screens shortly. So please do call in. We have just about 15 minutes before we need to wind up, so I would get dialing. Now, Timothy, yes, she posed a question to you. Yes, I'm giving you the opportunity to respond.
Thank you very much. Listening to my two colleagues, we had been thinking about the causes, about the caregivers and the nannies, and listening to the stories and all that, what they've brought up. I think now I'd love to really work overdrive for our program developers to really come up with that, because listening to this, it looks like it's an urgent issue in this country. So we'll definitely work on the issue of the caregiver, the issue of the nannies, and we're also thinking in terms of a short program, maybe a week or two, for even parents of these kids who have these disabilities, because we have experts at KISE. So that gives me an issue that we really need to work overdrive. I also need to point out that we also have what we call a rehabilitation program for people who get disabilities in life when they're working, like those who go blind. We have a rehabilitation program where we take them through something called activities of daily living. We help them, first of all, accept that they have got this disability in old age while they're still working, and it's not the end of life. So we take them through how to maneuver around a room. We give them typing with the braille, not the normal braille, but the advanced one, the smart note taker and all that. So we give them that feeling that just accept, but life has not stopped, and you can still move on. So I thought that's also important to note that we are doing that at KISE, because many people don't know.
Okay. Maria, okay, yes, Eva.
And I'm also thinking, Mr. Director, this would probably be also a good time to mention the pre-conference that we are having to get the views, you see, because there will be a major conference on CBC and on CBC. But for us, we are talking about inclusion. So maybe you can mention a little bit about that, just so that we can get more people engaged and we get a proper picture of actually what is going on out there.
Thank you very much, Eva. Eva happens to be in that committee. So there's a national conference on education on the 16th of August. And before the national conference, we have about 5 pre-conferences on various themes. And KISE has the responsibility of organizing one about inclusion with competence-based education and beyond. This particular conference, pre-conference, is very important because we want to engage researchers, we want to engage scholars, we want to engage parents who have kids with disabilities. We engage a whole day, we get their views, we get to get their experiences, and we're also thinking in terms of inviting some of the students with disabilities in schools so that we can get to know the challenges they go through in their schools. The whole idea about this conference is to know what are the challenges of people with disabilities, right from the preschool all the way to vocational institutions. What challenges do they go through? What is it we can do to intervene? What is there which has been researched by scholars? And we also get the experiences of parents so that we are able to come up with a position paper on inclusion and CBC during the national conference. Now, this pre-conference will be on the 5th of August at KISE. KISE is in Kasarani. The chief guest will be the CS Education, Professor George Magoha. And we're inviting anybody who feels they have a passion about education and inclusion as CBC is being rolled out, because we really want inclusion to have proper space in the rolling out of the CBC, which is actually already started, which is in class 3. But what is the space of people with disabilities right across from preschool all the way to vocational training institutions? Are there opportunities? And those institutions, do they have the necessary infrastructure to accommodate these people with disabilities? So welcome everybody. We wish to invite everybody to that pre-conference, and we invite even the media nation to come and cover it so that it can be live and people get the information. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, and in case you've just tuned in, if you have any questions for Eva, teacher Eva, or Timothy, or Maria Njeri, or Sanaipe, or Susan, on children with special needs, do please call us. The numbers are on your screen. We have about 10 minutes left before we need to wind up. Maria, we've had from the primary caregivers, we've had from, Eva and Susan. We've also had from Timothy. You're in the advocacy space, and Eva talked about, the legislation being there, the policy being there, but there being a lack of awareness. Are there other gaps as a person with special needs that you've seen that should be addressed?
Of course, course, as I was saying, there are so many pretty policies on paper, but they trickling down to the community becomes a challenge. But one of the main challenges I've noted when it comes to advocacy is the lack of voices of people with disabilities in the tables making the decisions. So the people who are making the policies, yes, I fully agree they can be experts in their field, but no one can be much of an expert as Susan, who is a parent, or teacher, even who is a teacher. So we need to recognize the experts of experiences in decision making, in policy making, so that when we are making these laws, we are fully aware of, fully in tune with what's happening on the ground. Yeah. So that's one of the biggest challenges. No one is willing to listen, or no one is willing to take feedback from the people with disabilities. Yeah.
All right. So I sit at the table.
Yeah, I sit at the table as press in the boardrooms, a platform to just speak out of what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. Sanaipe. Timothy and Eva raised the question of the competency-based curriculum. Are there certain gaps, being somebody who works with people, with children with special needs, that you feel should be addressed?
Yes. It's a very good curriculum, and I really like it because of the PP1, the play. There is a lot of play, and there is a lot of interaction and the field work. It's not just about a pen and a book. And when you're doing those activities, like I said earlier, in the play, that's when you get to know this child has a problem with sensory integration. This child is not able to follow instruction. This child is not able to interact with other children. Yes, the program is there, but who is there to be able to identify that child? Like, yes, the teachers are there. Are they equipped? Like in all schools and the government institutions, the teachers who are there, are they equipped with information about a child with special needs? Or I'll come across a child who is not able to do that, and I'll just call the parents and tell them, sorry, we have your child is not able to do 1, 2, 3. So what is the parent supposed to do at that stage? Are they equipped with information on how to go about it? There are no therapists in school, whereby they are able to do the assessment and be able to identify such cases, and now train with the parents and the students, so that they are able to move with the other peoples. Yeah, at least nowadays there is no repetition. Earlier we used to repeat classes.
Sanaipe, please forgive me. Unfortunately, we do have to cross over to Nakuru. A bit earlier, we had Bridget Singana, who briefed us from that county on the COG meeting, and now the chair of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, is currently speaking.
Remain extreme, and in many cases, the inequality is even worse within the same counties. You find within the same counties, there are more wards favored than others. As a result of growing disillusionment about the promise of devolution, there is obviously an increasing risk of clawing back what we have gained. And in this process, devolution is therefore quickly losing support among few citizens. Cases of corruption within the devolved unit is being reported quite frequently in the media and elsewhere. It is increasingly becoming clear that devolution, given the frequent legal and political challenges, that is not being implemented as comprehensively as it was envisioned by Kenyans, or even the drafters of the Constitution. It now appears that the version of devolution being implemented is intentionally designed to again recentralize control of peripheral administrative units. Given Kenya's history, and you remember in 1966 what happened, with the regional governments, there is a risk that the country might throw the baby out with the bathwater as citizen frustration grows. As Kenyan citizens begin to question the value of devolved government and express frustration around overgrowing inequality, corruption, and even tribalism within our own devolved unit, it is time we take a step back and take a closer look at the realities around us. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting has been convened at the opportune moment when we need to ask those hard questions and examine all structures within a critical and constructive eye. I invite all of you to take a close look at what is happening within counties with regard to devolution and accountability. Take a closer look at what is happening at the national government level. Examine the Senate, the National Assembly, and indeed examine the Republic of Kenya. And ask this question. Article 174 of the Constitution on objects of devolution, and Article 175 on principles of devolution. Then maybe make some recommendations on how existing gaps can be addressed. And can we fix these existing gaps through a referendum or through other legal process? During this meeting, it's keen to understand deeper citizen feel about the progress and the promise of devolution, and what they propose that the county government should do to deliver on this promise, which seems to have started eluding us. I also want to understand how we as political leaders have responded to the feelings perception, and feedbacks from wananchi. Further, we need to respond to the questions of why administrative and political devolution in Kenya seems not to have improved accountability in the eyes of wananchi, foster better provision of local public goods and services, and promote democratic consultation. Also, we need to respond to how issues of political affiliation, performance, and ethnic fragmentation have been addressed at the county level. Ladies and gentlemen, we had to go to Supreme Court for few interpretations as counties. We have gone to the Supreme Court for interpretation of some of the provisions within the Constitution and in the legal documents of how we can move in the budget process, because we have been having stalemates year in, year out. I want to thank all of you to have committed yourself to this particular process. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel by the end of this meeting, we should also be able to answer the following questions. How governance have been brought closer to the people through implementation of administrative and political devolution. Number two, an equal development and allocation of resources is still regionally and ethnically skewed despite devolution. National and county government projects are still patronized, benefiting friendly areas. So how can devolution boost citizen engagement and accountability? Number three, what information do citizens and governors need to hold county governments accountable? And what information will incentive elected leaders at both national and county levels to perform better and engage more with constituents? So we are not here for a blame game, but we are here to look at devolution journey since 2013 up to the moment. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, how can subnational fiscal independence improve the quality of governance and the provision of public goods and services? I'm happy that the Cabinet Secretary has talked of very good things. Cabinet Secretary for Devolution has talked very good things about devolution. But we have had a lot of frustrations also. I remember as we started regional economic blocks, and I belong to one, the Lake Region Economic Bloc, we moved on very well. And we provided the necessary resources required to support these regional blocks. But unfortunately, the controller of budget has rejected to transfer funds to these regional blocks I don't know if you are aware of that. And therefore it has been a problem to run these regional blocks without the necessary funding. Of course, we must appreciate that you came up with a policy, and as you said, the policy is still under consideration. We had come up with projects that we feel will make a change to this country. And you have mentioned one, climate change, which is very critical. But those are some of the frustrations that we are actually facing as we try to move forward as economic blocks. Reviewing the budget of this financial year, the national budget of this financial year, we have found out that there is a budget provision of 150 billion Kenya shillings, which have been budgeted for functions of county governments. So this issue that we are all at stalemate can be resolved very fast if functions meant for county governments are left for the county government to perform them, and any funds to support those functions transferred to county governments. There is a clear provision within the Constitution that there will be consultation, there will be proper coordination and cooperation. And you even emphasize that. I don't know if this has been working. We have had several summit meetings, and I think the last one that we had was last summit meeting that we had, a formal one, was 2017. We are now on 2019, and these meetings are supposed to be every 6 months. During those particular summit meetings, we have come up with some resolutions. I don't know how many of those resolutions have been implemented.
Sorry, I apologize for that. We will be going back to that particular function shortly on NTV Sasa, which comes up after this. I now want to conclude our conversation and make way for Dan Mule and Kaltun Jama. And I had asked to call in, but we've run out of time. So I will give you these numbers first. The first for the Kenya Institute of Special Education. That number is 0705-269-505. I'll give it to you again, 0705-269-505. That is the Kenya Institute of Special Education. And then ACON, which Teacher Eva runs. If you want to reach her, the number is 0725-959-137. 0725-959-137. And finally, the Special Caregivers Space, the number is 0722-956574. You called it SPECS?
Yes, yes.
SPECS, okay, 0722-956574. Timothy, I'll give you the last word.
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to emphasize that we also have some other courses which we do, especially Kenya Sign Language for work places, and we are able to customer make with any organization. We do that quite a lot. We have partnered with the National Council for People with Disabilities also to do Kenya Sign Language in most of the organizations across the country because they have that mandate and they have come to us and we've done quite a lot. So any organization which feels that they want their people to learn Kenya Sign Language, we're able to do it. We also have a town campus, Kenya Insurance Plaza, where we're doing Kenya Sign Language during the day and for evening classes. And like I said, we have activities for daily living for people who get blind when they are already working. We're able to help them. And One thing I also want to finalize is saying that I think even the government is doing quite a bit, especially the question you asked about teachers, because Teacher Service Commission has already been doing some training for teachers over the holidays, and they're doing some of it. I'm happy to report that 10 of our lecturers are part of training the teachers for CBC, and also the new teacher training college's curriculum is being reviewed so that every teacher coming out of a teacher training college has basics about inclusive education. So they should be able to know how to handle kids with disabilities.
All right. So there's so much we've left unsaid, unfortunately.
Yes.
Time is not on our side. But do stay tuned. NTV Sasa, as I said, coming up next.